where we are right now and the cycles that started in 3102 BC, called Kali Yuga. So I'm going to be talking more about history, long spans of time in history. And there are three basic cycles that I'm going to be discussing. One of them, the biggest one, is 2,622 years. The second biggest one, which is also very accurate, is 2,064 years. And the third one, which is also extremely interesting and accurate, 1768 years. Now, what are these about and why do I use them? Well, the basic idea is that we're looking to get Jupiter, Saturn, and Rahu and Ketu, which are the north and south nodes of the moon, to be in the same positions they were at the prior interval. And this happens very rarely. The shortest interval where the four of them are kind of in the same place, although not exactly, is approximately 296 years. So it's a 300-year minimum kind of thing. And that interval of 296 years doesn't continue to repeat. In other words, they get in and out of being in line with each other, and then, because it's not an exact mix. In other words, what you're doing is the size of Saturn's cycle is 29.45 years, and the size of Jupiter's cycle is 11.86 years, and the size of Rahu and Ketu is 18.6 years. What we're looking for is the common multiple of the three of them. And the ones that come out fairly accurate in terms of multiples of those planetary cycles are the ones I mentioned. 1768 is continually repeating very, very closely. Sometimes it gets a little bit out of sync where the three are not in the exact same signs, but then they move back in again. And 2622 is also extremely accurate. And the 2064-year cycle is also one where the three planets are in sync with each other, and as they were 2,064 years earlier or later. But that's also an interesting multiple. It's 40 times 51.6, so there's kind of another line up there with Marty Armstrong's pi cycle. Okay, so now that you know the three intervals we're looking at, why bother? Well, the reason is, if you look at those intervals, the shorter ones are also useful, and there are other shorter ones, and I'll talk about them on other videos. But these are very reliable in terms of showing repetitions of history. So where I'm going to start now is pretty wild. In the Vedic understanding of time, they have an understanding of what are called yugas. And yugas are massively long spans of time. And there are 4 yugas, and the 4 yugas, the smallest one of them is called Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga is like the winter, and then, Sat Yuga, which is the spring, it's like the summer, And each one is bigger. The Sat Yuga is the largest, and the others are mathematically related, but smaller and smaller and smaller. And Kali Yuga is 144,000 years long. So it's a big deal. Now, the interesting thing is, the astrologers say that Kali Yuga actually started in our historical period in 3102 BC, 3102 BC, and they say it started February 18th of 3102. So we have a kind of a reference point where the winter began. I mean, you think of the winter, you think of colder weather, you think about less sunlight, you think about maybe a little more nastiness, a little more uncomfortableness, a little more darkness. And Kali Yuga is meant to be like that. It's not as lively and as happy, you might say, or there's different levels of bliss than had been prior, which might be a little more contracted. So the claim is that we're in Kali Yuga, and we've been in Kali Yuga, and we're just kind of starting it, really. So starting from 3102, I found that there's some really cool relationships using those three cycles that I talked about. So first, Kali Yuga is kind of like the fall of light. It's kind of like all of a sudden, you might say, the darkness is starting to emerge. And if you go 1,768 years, which is one of those cycles, from 3102, you find yourself at 1335 BC. From 3102 BC to 1335 BC. And guess what? That was the year that Akhenaten was a significant pharaoh in Egypt. He passed away. And why bother with that? Aten, A-T-E-N, was supposedly a solar god representing the sun, representing light, representing totality, representing fullness in a way that the other Egyptian deities did not. Akhenaten actually named himself Akhenaten after Aten. So this whole theme of that sunlight, that light, was there just going into the 150 years, going into the 1335, right at the end of the 18th dynasty, lines up exactly when the light was going out in a way, in terms of the Kali Yuga beginning in 3102. So you have this burst of light right before the thing kind of falters. And after Aten died, they really did everything to get rid of the memory of Aten. They got rid of his pictures and names, and they really did everything because they reacted strongly to this theme of the sun deity, solar deity. So that was an interesting thing, how it aligned directly with the beginning of Kali Yuga.